Yeah, definitely.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
This is number 20. Number 20, bitches. Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo on the
Cinco
Cinco de Drink.
520. I mean 520.
Yeah, it is. No, it's 5-5.
We stepped it up a notch from 420. It's 520 now.
Exactly. And we got a couple guests here today. We got Bracken.
Hey, what's up?
We got Mikey Poo again.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's gonna be a good one. I could already tell. Already tell it's gonna be a learning experience from all of us.
Right on.
And
I wanted to start out with a shout out to our hater. Actually, our first hater.
Let's hear it.
We got our first hater. I didn't.
Let's seriously hear it though. And take some serious let's
hear it.
And take it seriously. You know.
What he said was.
Get some better shit.
The first thing he said was die. That was the first message, and then
that's very
the second message was you make pot smokers look bad.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
That's what he said. He said you put out a bad reputation for weed.
I wonder why though.
Yeah, I went and listened to the point where, because it shows me where he commented. I listened like 10 minutes before, 10 minutes after, like there was nothing that stood out to me. After that he said go and die.
Well, what about the idea that there's two elements to every person, right? So we have and maybe this is new to some people have heard it, but the ego and the higher self, right, within each and every person. If everything's split into dimensions and degrees by perception within the universe, then the mind is in that same state by its perception. Only by its perception, maybe not by its inheritance, maybe not by what it is in its actuality, but by its perception, the way it tricks itself, right?
Okay.
So the ego is formed then, and ego can be a number of things that string together as one entity, as well as a higher self stringing together being one entity. You look at the higher self, and you're going to see the ego as a complete opposition of it. So at the basis we have fear, we have love, okay? Higher self being love, ego being fear. And you look at everything that stems into fear, and it's very egotistically driven. There's a lot of pompous, there's a lot of hatred, there's a lot of narcissism.
But what about like fear for your life? Like fear from spiders, fear from tigers and being killed by robbers and shit, things like that.
So that's on the so I told you fear is one element, right? One stringing together an energy and element. The body is in congruence with that. It is an element.
Okay.
So the mind or the spirit in my case is where I go with it. But the mind and the spirit being one, and its ability to fathom beyond the body makes it of the higher self. But the body is of the flesh and of the ego-driven perception. It's not an infinite perception.
So, do you think we're in this existence because of a fear-based drive, or something to that effect? You know,
Well, I mean, so
whenever the ego is there, is it there just for like us to overcome, or is that like part of it,
or like a learning experience?
So the ego is there because we believe it is there.
Yeah, first I totally relate with that.
What if you could say that even the ego and the mind is like the yin and the yang, and it has to be there, There's not saying that it cannot be there.
Yeah.
It has to be there to influence the other side, and the higher self, the spirit, has to be there to influence the lower side. It's that yin and yang process where and a cool thing that I realized, that a friend told me actually, that I didn't realize, and it's cool to just kind of realize other cultures' meanings. And so like the yin and yang sign,
absolutely,
it's half and half. It's half white, half black.
Yeah, great.
But if you know about the actual yin and yang signs from the cultures that it stemmed from, the black side of it, in the center of the bigger circle of it, without the tail, the bigger circle is a white circle. And the white side, in the center of the circle, not the tail, but the circle, has a black circle. And that's because it's kind of explaining that infinite process where if you go and dig as far as you can into the light side, you're going to find the dark side.
Right.
And if you dig as far as you can into the dark side, you're going to find the light side.
So my answer to that really is this, is that within this plane of existence, okay, this eternal now that's going on right now that is infinite in itself, in my belief, doesn't mean that the expansion beyond this infinite expansion, there isn't more infinite expansion, which makes the possibility, like we talked about, of a creator. Okay, so beyond perception, beyond balance, I believe the mind can fathom such places in an infinite realm, that there is no need for balance or opposition.
Oh, so you're saying balance is a thing of this existence.
Exactly.
But not of all possible existences.
Ah, and I can see that.
So step outside our frame of infinite and go beyond that in an infinite spectrum. Because if we're talking about infinite, it's beyond forever.
Yeah.
So it never really stops. And in any plane of
anything.
existence, different dimensional existences, we could then have planes where balance is not.
Not even a thing.
Yeah. I always think of...
There would be no lax.
That would be extremely interesting.
I always think of like an existence where like people are like breathing in like carbon monoxide and exhaling like oxygen, and like trees are doing the opposite thing, you know, just like opposite existence, you know. And it's if it's infinite, then it's all possible, you know. That's why I always at least think, and I always wonder if everything's infinite, is this situation possible again?
Like an exact
I would
replica.
say-
Almost an exact.
So you're talking about the mirroring of universes, like an infinite expansion, like a mirroring of like alternate realities that are taking place.
What if it's only okay? So that's good to think. Well, okay. So when I think of that, what I think about this, I think about this exact moment could be replicated 99.999999999%. I believe that infinite entails that nothing will ever repeat itself.
Yeah.
But it's some
even
little...
maybe down to the very
last
where you didn't say
infinitely small.
You know, or maybe we didn't say one single word different.
Like if I picked my nose a different time when I was a little kid, you know.
Yes, but it may be a second off, or it may be a second different, or something like that. But infinite, I believe, I don't see infinite repeating itself because it's never ending. It doesn't end, and so that's why I think this is one thing that is crazy that I think about humans. I think that humans, with us, we can understand so much, and we can understand some things that are really hard to fathom, but we can't understand infinite. Our brain is programmed to have a start and a beginning, and that's why it's very hard to understand. Like, you can understand reincarnation or a circle to a point. Yeah. But did you know that a perfect circle, is not measurable?
Yeah.
That's why pi is an infinite number, is because a circle is not measurable.
Exactly.
It's an infinite thing,
So do you think
but we don't understand that. We think that you can just go around, but you can never go around because it's an infinite number. You can never immediately go around.
Point is exact.
Exactly.
No
point isn't exact. It's a swirl. It's the golden ratio.
So here's another thing. So let's look at it as an infinite expansion number, okay? You got the number 4, right? And 4 pops up again. So maybe the same thing exists, but at different points.
What do you mean?
The number 4 is still the same number as 4, right?
Yeah.
In the pi
You
equation
talking
here,
about
right?
the golden ratio and how it relates to matter in this world. You got to talk about it at this like a fucking anatomical or atomical level.
Okay, so
you know what I'm saying? Like,
I get what you're saying. So liken it under this. So right now he's saying, does something exist twice? Right? Does it repeat itself?
Yeah.
If it's infinite, I think both are true then, because it's not one or the other.
And you just proved my point that I'm wrong.
Dude,
it does repeat itself, but it also doesn't.
Yeah.
It's a yes and a fucking
the fucked up thing is, me and Jerry, dude. Me and Jerry had a conversation, like a little fucking comment, fucking thing on Facebook, and we figured out that like none of us were right or wrong, you know. We were both exactly right. It's just like.
But we were both wrong.
But
that's
exactly.
True. That's true, especially since we only can communicate with words, which are extremely limited.
Well, and what Bracken told me earlier today that I've talked about with a lot of people before is when you use a word or you use a title or something, it loses significance of what it really is to you.
Right.
It loses significance because you're trying to
exactly right on.
You can never.
It's always a representation of something.
It's my representation, and then when you hear it, you're gonna think something different because you grew up a different life than me, and you have chosen different actions than me, and you think different things are right than me and different things are wrong than me. So when I say the same word, we have two different meanings, and that's another thing that I say sometimes is that when we have a moment, and it's more than one person, That is multiple moments at the same time happening.
Yeah.
Because have you ever had and we all have, I'm not going to say have you because we all have, but remember those times where you and your homie did something and then a week later you go to tell your homies and you guys have two different stories. And it's like they match up very, very closely, but each of you have different points on it.
Yeah.
And each of you have an extra sentence
Especially
to add
with how
on to
you
it.
viewed people and people's actions, because everyone has such a different perspective of how they view people. Like sometimes I'll have a homie that like didn't like something that someone did, and I'll be like, I didn't really even notice that very much, you know. But it like totally changed the perspective of the whole night after that. Because now, after you've decided you kind of don't like someone, it's like you almost are looking for those negative things.
Yeah.
And if you haven't decided that, or if you're open-minded towards them, you're like looking for those good things.
Ew, and so you just reminded me, like, a friend told me that in this universe, what you focus on is what you see. And so if you see positive things, or if you see and think of positive things, you're only going to see and think of those positive things. You're going to ignore the negative things. If you see and think negative things, you're going to ignore the positive things. And so this weird thing that he told me, that it was a question but a theory. And I guess those are very close tied, but I like to say it's both because they're a little different. But he said, what if we could focus on happiness and positiveness so constant and for so long and be so persistent about thinking about that,
as close to infinite as possible,
that things that are negative in your past erase, that they disappear, because you can no longer see those because you are only seeing and thinking positive things.
Well, it's like
so they're kind of marked as not important.
And
in
so
your mind anymore,
his example that hit me the hardest, which I think in this sense it's very, very hard for some people even to think about it, and for me sometimes I think it'd be beautiful to happen, but I don't know if it could. But he was saying, what if we became so positive that 9/11 didn't happen? And think about that, and think about it before you say anything. You know?
Well,
like,
only in your perception.
No, but
You
really,
you're,
like,
you're only really talking about memories.
But really, like what I was saying a couple casts ago, you know, like how Jaden Jerrick's brother, he was saying he wants a Jeep, and all he was seeing was Jeeps, and I'm driving around, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's what you're fucking looking for.
Yeah, it's what you're looking for.
So as soon as you buy the car, you don't see it as much anymore. As soon as you buy it, all of a sudden you're seeing it all over the place. And the interesting part about that is, as time goes on, you see it more and more. But it's more likely that it's decreasing in fluctuation, if anything, than it is increasing.
And in
So
value.
you're actually seeing
it
more of what is less prevalent, because that's what you're looking for. Which means the power of perception and what you really truly are looking for, extremely powerful, obviously.
Yeah.
Here's something I wanted to say, too. We're talking about titles and placing a title on something, and where there is a title, that shows that there's a lack and it needs a title. And where there's need, there's fear. And I know you got to think about that. Underlying every single need comes a fear.
Yeah.
Of not having it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so in Buddhist belief, they talk about samsaric suffering, and that in this life we can reach a nirvanic state. Buddha talks about through absence of ignorance and craving is a need, right? So he's talking about not needing anything, and I am that I am, simply existing as a piece of the freaking entire infinite expansions altogether. You are just one congruency of the infinite expansion, and not needing a title. Even giving ourselves names at this point is counterproductive to eradicating fear. But it's such a prominent thing in our culture, we're going to go ahead and continue to do it. So I had a comment on Facebook. The guy said that he said, and some are gods. This was an answer to like a post that said, some are created equally, others are choosing to be incredible, I believe it is. I'm not going to quote here, but it was very close to that. And he said, and then some are gods, is the comment. And my response to that was, what makes them as such a condition within is the absence of need for such titles. Thus true nirvana is understood, embodied, embraced, and accepted, which is in congruency with the title and symbolism God, or gods, in quotations, Although the paradox in this is right-mindedness, where one is wholly confident without fear, and the key to such gates desired within this comment. The idea of gods is one that implies no need whatsoever, including such titles as God or gods.
Huh.
See, that for me, that is hard to understand.
It's because we're going to an infinite realm.
Yeah.
It's not something we're going to understand. We're going to perceive as much as we can.
What I was like you can like show someone the way towards that, you know, but you cannot describe it in words. You can point at it. You can do it, like you can say the words towards it, but you cannot describe it in words.
Every experience with what we're going for here is very intrapersonal.
Exactly.
To the creation within creation.
So what if?
Unfortunately, nobody can be told with the Matrix.
So what if it's like this?
There
what
is,
if,
there is
like,
no spoon though, and in fear, I think that's what he's talking about in the Matrix, is that there is no fear. It's a fucking illusion in my mind. And because of that,
right now,
he's completely unplugged and freaking can do anything he wants within the free. He's limitless.
So what about this though? What if you think about this? Okay, so if we're thinking that when you die, you are reincarnated or you're put into some other energy because your matter is going to be taken up by the ground or it's going to be taken up by something because you're dead, and so it's going to start taking over you, you know? So you're going to eventually reincarnate to something, you know?
The vibrational energy continues to exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what if you continue to get reincarnated, and it's like when people try to explain to you about this universal thing or this thing where you don't need fear or anything, you know, it's an idea. You can be, it's an idea.
Yeah.
But what if you can't understand that until you've reincarnated so many times to live out the karmas that you've been playing?
This is
because karma is kind of holding you back from seeing the real
kind of
truth.
The goal of every life is to get closer and closer to that.
And that's why and kind of and living
beyond
your karmas, you know, like living the positives and the negatives to the point where, you know, where you've done it enough times, where you've accepted the bad things and accepted just that karma flow, you know, when you do good things, you get good things, when you do bad things, you get bad things. And once you have accepted and I don't want to say repent, but that's the only word I can think of. What's it called when, like, you live out that karma? Like when that karma comes back,
you atone?
Yeah, like you had that, you did a bad thing,
it's just a
and then something bad comes back to you. So what if you can do that so many times to the point where you kind of lived out those, and then you can be at the point where you understand, you know?
Yeah.
Where a lot of people understand where you say, okay, I really think I understand this, and now I can start bettering myself and doing and living in the moment and living my positives and negatives every second instead of waiting for those positives and negatives to come back. So you're more in the moment, and the more in the moment you get, it depends on how many times you've atoned. I don't like saying those words because it reminds me of being moment.
So here's the thing. With atonement, it's a word for symbolism. So if we're to live without the fears that we're talking about, we have to be able to say such words to describe something on a deeper meaning without having popular biases to it. Obviously, atonement is in direct congruency with Christianity within popular bias. Eradicate that shit and get rid of the needs be to have it be that part which comes from the fear, and just speak from the heart on what you're saying. And atonement is actually a great word to talk about accounting for your entire existence.
And I think that the reason atonement is so heavy on me is because I remember hearing it so much when I was Mormon.
Yeah.
That I think that now that I'm not Mormon, and it's something that I need to work on. This is a personal thing.
Yeah.
But I believe that I still have a lot of things built up from that. From being a kid being Mormon and coming out of being Mormon, I think that I have a lot of, you know, like, built up about that I need to get over.
I do too.
It's very hard to get over because it's like I've had that for the first 12. That's how I grew up.
Do you think, like, when you're, whatever atonement is, or enlightenment, or whatever you want to call it, you know, do you think Because at least this is what I think. I think once you're so-called enlightened or whatever the fuck you want to call it, atonement.
Same energy that we were talking about earlier, the higher self.
Yeah, that
all the words that
self.
describe this. Yeah.
But do you think there's a higher self than that?
Yeah, there has to be.
So
there
this is what.
Well, that's
this
what
is what
in symbolism is. And again, this is our symbolism, which this is where the fear comes from. Believe me, God needs no goddamn. If you believe in a God, he doesn't need any titles. Okay, it's merely exists. But this is where a creator comes into play, man. This is where it comes into play.
And so me and Bracken were actually talking earlier, and so we were like, and I'll try to play it as cool or as much as we said it earlier, but I'm probably gonna throw in some extras. But we were talking about how. This theme that I came up with, I believe in the golden ratio, that the golden ratio is this constant spiral that's going in and out at the same time. It's this infinite spiral that's going in and out. And so inside of those in and outs, there's infinite in and outs within those. And that's kind of like each of us, we each have our infinite in and outs, but it's not that original in and out. It's part of that original in and out because that original in and out made our in and out. Yeah. So it's like, what if we can be so in the moment. So what if we can be so in the moment that we are living our golden ratio? We are creating constantly because we are going in this golden ratio. But hold on. So what if when we become so in the moment that we start creating our reality like infinitely in and out, like the golden ratio? I feel like that you are still part of that original infinite spiral. Yeah. And so that original infinite spiral is, I guess like Bracken would say, is without fear. That original infinite spiral is just creating and creating and creating with no fear.
That is your inheritance.
And so that is what created us and created every living thing and every little atom and everything. And we are infinitely creating these spirals, but we're creating them with fear. Yeah. Even with 1% of fear in your life. You could be born and have that original fear of being born, and then you could have no fears in your life, but you are still have that 1% of fear, whereas that original energy didn't have any fear and it never will, and it's continuous in both ways.
So let me speak real quick on this too. So the interesting part to me is the higher self doesn't teach in gain, it teaches in sacrifice. So the higher self is actually a plane of being without than it is with. Whereas fear implies the need. Obviously, fear is the question, always. Love is the answer. So if love exists continuously at an infinite rate, true love always, and everything that love all encompasses, which is that same energy or wavelength I'm talking about, and you're consistent with that, to have all, you give all. It's not, Bruce Lee said this, it's not the daily increase, but the daily decrease. Hack away at the unessential. It's all unessential from the mind. All of it is unessential. Even what we're doing right now, if it's done in fear, is unessential. Yeah. The best speakers, the best performers, the people in history that you look to in your freaking patterns to follow, if you're really, really wanting to be incredible on this planet, are the ones with the most absence of fear or the absence of mind over matter, not mind over matter. So that's where it's the lack. And so, we talk about a higher consciousness, a higher dimension, a spirit, however you want to label it in symbolism. It teaches in letting go and remembering. Mm-hmm. Remembering what you are currently, that you have always been currently, as it's always been currently, and letting go of everything you think you understand. So we're not in control.
The point of being here is to become detached of all that's here.
It's to be one with all that's here, because everything else that's here outside the mind's perception is one with everything that's here. We're the ones that are fucking that up.
I see the point of being here.
We're all a bunch of singularities.
No, but exactly.
Fucking shit up.
And the tree don't think like
make your fucking.
It simply sits in existence as it needs to.
Yeah, and make your fucking own experience. Make your true fucking.
It's probably closer than us, but it probably does have.
But then you think about it, and then
some
it's
sort
like,
of ego, some sort of tree ego.
But then maybe it does. But then you put it back to the point where we said earlier, it's a yes and a no. So maybe it is thinking and saying fucking fuck you, and maybe it is saying oh I love you, you know, like or
So
it's
is right and wrong even right and wrong?
Well, what I was trying to say earlier is Alex was saying that there's this the swirl in and this like the swirl, you know.
It's
and
all
what I'm saying
that we have
is
created
that
in our mind, dog.
well, yeah, and it's all
placed
situations that we
ourselves
created in our mind. But exactly, and the swirl is even a situation that we've created in our mind, you know.
and
it's
swirl
just
within itself.
yeah, and exactly. Well,
Swirly.
either way, as within is without, you know. Like, there's no difference, you know. We're just peaking at different fucking spots, you know.
Yeah.
There's no real fucking difference.
There's no real differentiation
So-
except for what the mind does.
Yeah.
Can I just say what I just thought of just weirdly? It's just a tag.
No.
Is
we're out of time.
No, okay. You said right, and the most common saying that I do hear is "as within is without."
Exactly.
But
Never heard
to
that
me,
before.
for some reason,
forgot
without
who
sounds
said
like without like the
Without
like
having-
a singular word instead of without the two words.
Okay.
And they mean two completely different things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to me, like for some reason, my mind just went on a trip real quick. But what if you say, what if it? Because okay, it makes more sense to me. What if you say this?
Yes, no,
As
infinite.
as is what's out is within. You know. 'Cause
Or-
I feel like that makes more sense because without and without
It
are
just
two
depends on
different
who
things.
you are.
And I
don't
just
know
I
the
just like to
difference.
throw that out there because fucking I noticed it
Maybe
and I just
maybe
wanted to
one
say
day
it
we'll
'cause
get
I'm a
one.
weirdo, but
No, so what you're
Good thought.
speaking on though is a good thought. Is that the inward reality reflects directly our outward realities, and so this isn't just true about ourselves though. Even though it starts on an individualistic basis, obviously it's going to happen within each one of us, and it needs to be that way first and foremost in order for it to perpetuate. But it's an overall of our species thinking as one like hive mind, and if you've ever seen Rick and Morty. Shout out to Rick and Morty. We're talking about
Best show
this
ever,
hive.
dude.
He has this hive mind of all these people, and it's one person, and they're all one mind on this whole planet, right? They're all,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
that
yeah,
makes the
controlled by
perfect
that girl,
society,
yeah.
a godly society, as one mind. So that's the idea here. Obviously, it is an idea that can be done from an infinite perspective. Will it be done? Highly unlikely, because I just said it's highly unlikely.
Well, do you think that
Hey, I
Well,
trust him. He knows.
highly unlikely? But do you think that like chaos essentially is that perfection? You know, because it's so
This is where differentiation
like have you ever
is.
heard of there's like free jazz music and like people at like drum circles and stuff like that. It's basically like there's like a bunch of rhythms, a bunch of groups of people doing kind of different rhythms, you know?
Right.
And fucking
Right.
that creates all this like chaos. But then if you're really like, especially if you're on like psychedelics, but like if you're really like tuning into the different like sounds and stuff, it can sound really amazing. Just kind of how this kind of society works, I feel like, because everybody's playing their different notes, you know, and it all eventually
makes
like
one note.
it all makes one note, and our
So-
note is just playing one different fucking higher
It's
vibrational
like a
note
distorted
than
guitar, dude. Just
yeah, and that's going, and then that's going with a whole bunch. It's just like a fractal.
So and it makes me think of this that I used to talk about this a little bit with Brian. Shout out to Brian, love you when you Brian get to hear this, right?
Yeah,
Brian?
it's on SoundCloud and YouTube.
Cool, man. It's my
Yeah.
first time here.
Brian's got this. Yeah, Brian.
Shout
Yeah.
out to Brian Woodward, man. That's my
Shout out
homie.
to
I hope to have him
Brian's
on
the
here
nigga.
with us soon, man.
Brian.
But you know, that's my best friend in the world. I love him, man. But he basically would listen to me talk about. So we have a list of pros and cons, and within your original list of pros and cons, I would wager that one of those cons could end up in more pros than your original list of pros on your original list of pros and cons. And so what you're talking about here is that all are necessary. Everything is necessary.
Well,
It
and-
must take place in order for this dimension of reality to balance.
Exactly.
But that almost brings the idea, what's the fucking purpose of what we're doing then? We're just choosing,
know.
but
I
we
think
don't
it's
know
our
that it's already,
purpose.
like, is it
Yeah.
our choice at that point?
Yeah.
Well,
See,
okay,
this is where I get stuck. I
Okay,
get stuck.
wait. So I think about this. So when I think about it, I think about this with
Shit blows
the
my
understanding of we're all just infinite spirals, you know, within bigger infinite spirals
Swirly.
and smaller and everything.
Spirally.
But
Shit.
No, but
So
we're talking about okay, so what do we say right before that? Right?
No, you're talking about
how is it our choice? Is it
Okay,
are we
so
in
look at it
control?
this way.
Are we really in control?
So-
It appears as so because our mind says so, but is that
So
really
also
what's
look at it in this way.
It's not.
Yeah,
What if, as if,
Does it matter?
you get
This guy knows. He already fucking.
And the ego strikes again.
yeah.
Episode 22, Star Wars: The Ego Strikes Back.
no, but do what you want to do.
Sith, the ego.
It's novelty. It's like Terrence McKenna said. Fucking, he said it's just continuous evolution. You know? That's the point. That's the only point. That's the only point I can think of. Is just continuous going, infinity,
Transforming.
You know? Transforming.
And
This has
learning-
always existed. It's never not existed. It's simply transforming. Just like
Transforming,
healing.
Make
you
sure
know,
this is
learning and action. Well, okay, and so
yeah, we want to take a quick break, real quick.
Make sure
yeah,
it's
quick break,
recorded.
real quick.
Hey, we'll take a break.
Are we back?
Like,
No.
Yep, we're back.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back.
The conclusion from the break is that you can't hard R it when you say nigga.
Yeah.
You gotta leave off the R
And the real shit
and
is
with an A.
any word
If
you
you're white.
say, even if you do hard art, which you probably shouldn't, the real shit is intention, you know? If
I don't
you
know that
mean it in a
kid.
hard
For all the
way.
black people out there, I don't want to get shot.
Well, I do not want to get shot, but
Yeah,
I'm
I'd
saying I got friends who don't give a fuck, you know. I don't hard art it, you know, but like I'll be like, what a nigga, you know, like,
Yeah.
but like it's just a word, you know. When it really comes down to it, it's just a fucking word.
But-
How about speaking
with
with
some
intent?
built up fucking
Yeah, let's
bullshit
go
behind
back
it.
to intent.
But
Let's
intent,
shout out to
exactly.
intent.
dopeness.
But that's the thing is that the N word with the hard R has been used for hundreds of years for
Disrespectful meaning.
disrespectful
Like
meaning.
extremely disrespectful.
And so, and I feel like black
Demeaning.
people, I feel like, and I just thought of this, but I feel like maybe they say nigga because it doesn't hold that meaning.
Oh.
Maybe that's
So
why
like,
they say
it's
it
like a
to
joke.
friends.
It's like making a joke.
Yeah, it's like, what's up, nigga?
It's like
But
comedy.
like, if you say, they don't say the N word, though,
yeah,
you know?
They say
I don't think I know a black guy that has said the N word, you know? Well, at least intentionally to say, what's up, dude?
Nigga.
And
know?
honestly, I do not like.
We
I
go
don't,
for it.
I don't
I
even
gotta
know
speak
shit
on
about
this
the
real
whole
quick, man. We go
situation.
for
You know,
God damn.
I will say my words on it or whatever. Like it's all intent, but I do not know anything about the whole situation. You know, whatever I say is just what I say. You know, like it's just a bunch of bullshit. Honestly, but it's
So
what I think.
what about the premise here, you know, of intent? Anybody got any thoughts on moving with intent, purposeful intent in life, like how that goes down?
I've always been curious
Well-
if intent has an effect on everything. Like even when I'm eating food, if I know that it's not organic, now that I've looked at the difference between organic and non-organic food, especially when it comes to meat, because I know how poorly meat can be raised when it's not organic, I feel like now I dislike the way it tastes. I dislike, and growing up I didn't know the difference, so I just liked all steak. And now when I know it's not organic steak or something, for some reason I don't like it as much. And I've always wondered if the intent that I'm putting in that, knowing that it's not good, is actually making it worse for me somehow as it goes into my body.
I could definitely speak on this. I think about this all the time. I feel like I feel like every thought that you have, especially like that's intent, right? Like that's how intent is formed, which is the thoughts that you have and what you believe, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like intent it's like the butterfly effect, right? It affects everything.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you talk about like quantum mechanics, like, you know, we have group conscious because we know each other pretty well. Like I could probably, I don't know, we vibe on that level though, if you're following me, right?
Vibration, frequency.
Yeah. So like y'all can sense my intent. You know what I mean? Like that's
exactly.
like on that subtle fucking level. If intent makes ripples at that level, I think it affects everything. You know what I mean? How could it not?
And also
Murphy's
it's about,
Law?
which
Yeah.
you know, it goes
That's
back
anything
to
can't go wrong,
it goes
will
back
go
to
wrong.
what we talked about too, between the differentiation between two selves within yourself. All acts are self-serving. I would argue this. It becomes which self are you serving? And so that becomes.
Oh, I like that a lot.
So what we see here is what is your intent behind this? So when I speak into the microphone right now with the words that I'm laying down here, is it for an egotistical approach because I want to be the man and sound like I know what I'm saying, or is it because what I'm saying might actually help people?
So would you say the higher self is everyone?
I think that every single person within existence has both simultaneously present within them, but they choose between which one.
No, but I mean, when you say serving the higher self is being selfless and serving everyone,
it is to have all. To have all is to give all.
The higher self is like everyone, all connected as one.
Yes,
yeah. You know, from
the
a
higher
perspective,
and that's why the higher self is associated with God, and the same word is universe, or in symbolism.
Yeah.
And now every time someone says God, because of what I believe in. I think most of us are on the same tribe, but when someone says God, it's like, you know it, but that word doesn't describe it. That word is like a try to. It's like a try. It's like a try. It's like I'm trying to say that everything's one. Yeah. It's God, but that loses meaning just by saying it's God.
What it is what I was saying earlier, it's just like showing you towards that direction, It's just like it's just like really look for yourself.
The best we can do.
The best you can do, honestly, is look deep within yourself, because you know everything you need to know. You know what you need to do. You know
what if I feel like the best I can do includes all my fails, and I feel like that God doesn't fail?
That's why I think karma doesn't end.
A creator doesn't fail. But I'm part of a creation, and that's why I have fails, and I love it, and I love it because my failures shape me.
Your failures aren't failures.
My failures aren't failures; they're learning lessons.
Yeah.
And so and that original thing that did everything, I think that it doesn't include failures.
So would you say it's not us then? We're separate from
we're part of it. But we're also separate. Because we're part of it as in the sense of
a light going through one of those like prism things. Like we're a color of the rainbow right now, but we're not the original white light.
But I feel like you can backtrack because there's no... You can always at the same moment, so you can backtrack at any moment you want to be back over here before the prism.
And again, we can contemplate infinite realms, but if we're going to go infinite, we're going backwards, forwards, front, to diagonals, and fucking every direction, in any degree, and everything that you can think of, in any spectrum or fucking dimension you can think of. We're going to go in infinite directions, so it's never going to end in any direction, so you can always go in any way you want.
So then think about it this way, that creator energy, you don't have to say it's a creator energy, that the first energy, the creator energy, the original energy, whatever you want to call it, that thing just goes. We go, but we think about it when we go, Mm-hmm. We put that other side into us while we go. That original thing just goes.
So we're talking about laws of like universal infinity, that type of stuff. I've got a book called As a Course in Miracles, and this one does liken it unto a Christianic God, okay? But let's go ahead and take the popular bias out of it. When I drop symbolism. When I drop the words Holy Spirit and God, try to think of that same thing that we're talking about when that we don't need a title for to describe it, but we know it exists, kind of like quantum physics in this sense. We know this shit exists, we just don't understand it.
Yes and no.
So the Holy Spirit's purpose in translating is exactly the opposite. He translates only to preserve the original meaning in all respects and in all languages. Therefore, he opposes the idea that differences in form are meaningful, emphasizing always that these differences do not matter. The meaning of his message is always the same, only the meaning matters. God's law, when we talked about intent, only the meaning matters. God's law of creation does not involve the use of truth to convince his sons of truth. The extension of truth, which is the law of the kingdom, and as I italicized the is word, so it's not likening unto it, it's saying they're one and the same. Again, we're talking about a congruency, a pattern, and energy here. So it's saying the extension of truth is the law of the kingdom. They're one and the same. There's no differentiation here. Rest only on the knowledge of what truth is. This is your inheritance and requires no learning at all. But when you disinherit yourself, you become a learner of necessity. No one questions the connection of learning and memory. Learning is impossible without memory, since it must be consistent to be remembered. This is why the Holy Spirit's teaching is a lesson in remembering. I said before that he teaches remembering and forgetting, but the forgetting is only to make the remembering consistent. You forget in order to remember better. You will not understand his translations while you listen to two ways of interpreting them. Therefore, you must forget or relinquish one to understand the other. This is the only way you can learn consistency, so that you can finally be, and italicize be, consistent.
So, could you also say that everything is also true but false? That's what I take from that.
Well, the main part that I could take from it is lack of necessity to describe it. That's what he's talking about. That these degrees that don't have any meaning, that only the meaning has meaning. So only in existence has meaning. Basically, it exists, and that's its meaning.
So it's true and false at the same time, and you get to choose.
You get to choose how you want it, and so we've constantly been creating our realities by again, this goes back to the inward outward thing you're talking about. Your inward belief and realm reflects directly outwardly your reality, and that's true about the entire human race. So we've constantly been choosing between the two, and it talks about that being since the fall or the separation, and which is really when things went from a consistent, non-stop, infinite truth to degrees and spectrums. And so did the mind.
But then look at it this way.
This book is supposedly channeled in 1970s. She said that those words came directly from Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit themselves. Do I believe that? I don't know. I don't know. Anything is goddamn well possible, you know what I mean? But I do know that those are some profound words in the same sense that we're talking about in an infinite nature on basically how to get to a mindset that can be more productive because it's with absence of fear. And the detraction between meaning and needing to identify it with some sort of friggin' right or wrong aspect is actually decreasing our overall creativity.
And so, is that the same as saying that everything is truth and false?
Yeah, depending. I mean, the universe was here long before we were existing without truth or false.
Yeah, without good and bad.
Yeah,
but is it without it, or is it accepting that it's both?
It is both. I don't think it needs to accept anything.
There's no difference.
There's no difference.
Well, not accepting it, but
it's
existing
just
as both.
But okay, that's a human. That's an English word that I believe explains. Accepting is the same as being both.
Okay, so existing.
It's existing both.
And that's interesting you said that, because in the book it used the words being as like in italicized, like what you are is a being. Like you are just simply being.
Yeah,
there's
and
no,
what the fuck
there's
do
no
you
description
want
of
to
that.
be? What the fuck do you want to be, you know? What do you want to do? What do you want to do with your fucking life, you know?
This existence,
and that's this existence, your experience. What experience do you want to make? What, like, this is all progression. This is all, and I think the point of what, at least of from my perspective, the point of my life is to create fucking beautiful things, to create. Just create.
I think it's true about everybody. I think we talk ourselves out of that.
Everybody, yeah.
Well, and what if it's
I think that's true about you, and I think that's true about me and everybody that I've ever come in contact with in my life, and that I ever will. It's our inheritance to be creative and create beautiful things.
That's why we're
talk ourselves that little bit of a God in us.
That is the God complex.
We are creating it.
Because you're creating it. Yeah, it's your creation. Nobody else created that, you did.
Well, when we talk about the saying God created us in His own image, well, that's a broad spectrum of shit to consider.
So we got a little bit of God.
So we got a little, but we got a little bit of everything.
So I'm gonna try flying tomorrow.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing is,
give it a go.
There is, but in this sense, God, if there is a God, you know, with the title, he kind of smiles because he goes, "Oh, look at them. They need the title."
Yeah,
you know.
Look at them. They actually need to name things. He's like, oh, I'm just creating. This is just dope.
Let me make sure it's recording. I accidentally clicked.
Pose.
Right.
Is it mic check 1 2? No.
Hashtag nigga need.
Everything's good.
So we're talking about a perception or an idea of a God in quotations here for the symbolism of it, like understanding of things, yet we can't understand it because we simply have never reached such heights. Or see, again, I go with spectrums. I'm going to heights.
We have no reference for it.
And
exactly no reference to really know. We can only contemplate. You know.
And if we put it in the sense that original energy is constantly creating, you can never be that original energy because you have had at least one doubt in your life, and that original energy hasn't. You know, it is just a creating energy, and that's why. And maybe that's why you feel so close to that energy when you create things, is because you're getting close to it. You're creating things just like it is. But then you go back to your life where you're doubting things.
See, and I heard a great quote on a meditational. I love meditation. Shout out to meditation for anybody out there.
The nigga meditation.
Meditation.
Shout out to the hater.
So the meditation helps a lot. It's wellness habits in general. Green tea, black tea. I won't go too far into that, but I'm just saying like certain things of that nature. But meditation. God, no, I can't remember where the hell I was going with this. What were you talking about before?
Ooh, dude, don't ask me.
Reference points and...
Oh, I was talking about how the original creator is always doing it without...
Okay, so getting close to the creator. So, and I think this is true. I saw it on a meditation, a video on Netflix on meditation. It talks about... there was a quote on there. It said, somebody once told me that our highest order is to serve. And I used to think of that serve like, that's a detraction if I'm constantly doing more outwardly for everybody than I am inwardly for myself, right? But what does one need to do for himself who is completely fulfilled? Nothing. So at that point, you're so over-fulfilled, it is your highest order. You are at your highest function when you are consistently giving because you don't need anything.
And so you're expanding that.
So this puts you in congruency with the nature of the universe as far as transforming and growth goes, because you're just building upon it, not detracting from it. You see and you're already full. So
and that's where you start is yourself though. That's the thing.
You gotta fill yourself up first. You gotta get there. But once you're there, you gotta break through to that.
Most fulfillment comes from sacrifice, though, right? There's the paradox again. Most fulfillment, most of it to get to that level,
pain basically
comes from the sacrifice.
Comes from suffering.
And then once you freaking get enough sacrifice, you've reached these levels. The karma evens itself out and says, okay, you're full now. But then what do? You're freaking sitting there and you just got nothing needed, man. I was homeless for 3 years, man. And I'll tell you right now, you can live on the streets without $1 in your pocket. You can do heroin and crystal meth every single day, okay? You can get a blowjob every once in a while. You can eat food every single day, 3 meals a day, and you'll always have a place to sleep. And you can steal a bunch of shit and get away with it most of the time within Salt Lake City, and you'll do a little bit of jail time, and you will survive the whole time.
And so are you...
The whole time you will make it just fine. In fact, you are given everything you need right now at this moment to continue to survive, and not only survive, even thrive in such a nature. And keep going without a single thing. It'll just come to you. And when you recognize that, that's another absence of fear. Like, I don't need all this external shit. It's all internally taken care of for me because I'm existing in congruency with it. It's the sacrifice of the control that true control takes place. So it's always the decrease, not the daily increase. We think in like higher, and that's how it's somehow going to get us. But we live in a world full of mirrors, and this is where paradoxes become powerful. It's literally the combination of two elements, but flipping the script on it. So it's both, like you're talking about at the same time.
It's true and false.
But it flips it. So the element is true, but how you're perceiving it is not.
So
you
would you
flip the script on it?
Would you say that?
Flip the script on your mind.
Well, and I already know the answer to this, but would you say that you choose those positives and negatives?
Oh, absolutely. So here's the thing: the illusion of choice, though, comes into play here. So
that's what I'm asking.
The illusion
is what do you think about the illusion of the choice? Because you know that whatever you choose is the truth.
Confusion.
Because if the false is truth, then it's truth. If the truth is truth, then it's truth.
Right.
If nothing is the truth, then it's truth. But it's your perspective. So
if I believe
where does the
power, then
where does the choice of power come into this? What do you think?
I believe
well, this is not just me. This is where it becomes. It's not about me. It's about everything. So it's if it were just my thought on it, obviously it would be a completely different equation. Whereas it's everybody's thought on something as a combination to a tribalism, to a culture of how we're going to perceive, and then we are literally manifesting our cultures every single day. And,
so you're saying everyone's given a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not to the reality.
There's no one specific entity or person, even though there's been plenty in history that have been very influential, and obviously to this day, when we talk about Christ and Buddha and Krishna and some of these, even if they weren't, I'm going to go this far, even if these people weren't named that and weren't, Jesus wasn't white and he was Middle Eastern, and there's a whole different spectrum of settings, okay? The truth of it all remains, because truth always remains. Now we're deciding in this moment, what is also true about this is that we're deciding as a group, as a civilization, as a species on this entire planet constantly, which way we're going to go. And it's in complete balance. That's the crazy part. It's in complete balance.
But wouldn't you say that it's in complete balance because there's also the same amount of people not believing in it?
Yeah, no, there is. And so
I see
there's the same amount of people saying you guys are fucking stupid and this is a
society
fucking stupid
sucks
theory.
Right,
this is fucking
this
stupid.
whole thing right here, this podcast.
Yeah.
This is a fucking stupid podcast, and I mean, obviously, we know it exists.
Shout out to the hater.
There it is.
Shout out to the hater, dog. I love you.
I need to get his name, dude.
So and I love you. That's perfect.
Please
Jesus
listen to
talked
our
about
other
this too. Turn the
podcasts.
other cheek. No. So yes, obviously they both exist simultaneously, and that it isn't balanced because a lot of people are thinking more with the egotistical driven side. It becomes then it becomes even if the choice is an illusion to a creator, it's not to us.
But okay, so this is what I want to
add. It seems as
add.
though we're in control, but our mind can fathom that we're not.
And this is what I want to add, and it may be off topic, it may be on point, it may be both. But what I want to say is something that I grew up religious. I grew up Mormon. I went from Mormonism to no belief, and then I went to Christianity for a couple years, and now I am at this. I don't even know how to describe my beliefs right now. But what I'm trying to say is, from growing up Mormon and going to the Christian religion. They have very similar beliefs. They believe in Christ. That's what, and Mormonism is a form of Christianism because you believe in Christ.
Yeah, Christianity.
So, one thing that me and Bracken were talking about earlier that really sparked my mind, that really almost gave me a boner for fucking religion.
Dude,
with Mormonism, with Christianity, with any of that,
I hella relate to religious.
You have these stories, okay, and so people like the Bible. There's stories of people, and if you research what the Bible is, which I did when I started becoming Christian, not when I was Mormon. When I was Mormon, I just went with what they said. Right. But when I was Christian, Christians actually tell you, don't. Like find your own truth, come worship with us because we all believe in that thing, but find your own fucking truth, if you don't believe in Christians say if you don't believe the Bible, then you need to study into the part that you don't believe, it's like a constant upgrade, and so one thing that was crazy is Christianism and Mormonism and even Catholics believe in it. Is they believe in, which is a Christian form of Christianity, but it's a weird, different one. Yeah, they don't fully believe that. Okay, that's. But anyways, what I was going for is they all believe in where God created everything, even humans, and it was all just going. It was all just going and going and going and going and going. But then humans went to go eat the tree of knowledge. And so what Bracken told me, which I never thought of because I was religious, and religious people will never tell you this, but it makes 100% sense, is that what the humans did, Adam and Eve, is they questioned things. That's what the tree of knowledge was. Is they actually question things.
Yeah,
and so that's why in the Bible, and in the Mormon Book of Mormon, they say that everything was perfect, and then Adam and Eve ate the tree of knowledge.
Yeah.
And what Bracken said is eating the tree of knowledge is questioning something. And so in the Bible and the Mormon Book of Mormon, it says that once they ate the tree of knowledge, they had to cover themselves because they thought they were naked.
Well, they
had to run away and hide from God because they knew that God was there. So it makes so much fucking sense that it almost made me cry today, because once they ate that fruit, they decided that they needed to question things, you know? And so that's why God threw them out of the Garden of Eden, because he knew that they were going to question everything. So he said, oh, you guys were just my creation that was just going to infinitely go like a zombie. But now you question something, so now you are a god. So now I'm going to kick you out of my Garden of Eden, make your own Garden of Eden. And every false hope that you get, every fake feeling that you get, every fear that you get is you destroying your Garden of Eden. Your Garden of Eden is what you see in your life. Yeah. It's that perfect saying in your life.
You want to have that great
and the
power,
more things that you doubt, the more fear that you get, the more anger and all these things that you don't need you get. And you're not in the Garden of Eden anymore. You are now in your own reality, creating all these things that don't need to be there, that piss you off, that make you mad, that make you sad, that make you depressed, that make you feel all these things, and you're not in your Garden of Eden because you are not tending for your Garden of Eden. You are being lazy and saying, what are the things around me creating, you know? And so then you don't want to create, so then your reality is merging with all these other realities. So then you don't get to have your own reality because you doubt and you have fear. Yeah. But if you don't doubt and you don't have fear, then you go back to your Garden of Eden, which is God's Garden of Eden.
You're talking which is having faith.
No, not having fear.
Do you think though?
Which is not having doubts, not having fear, which is
faith isn't
almost impossible.
The Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is all of it. You know, a form of love. The hate is the love. You know, it's all fucking love. You know, the hate, you need it for some reason, because somebody, like, if somebody is like, let's say somebody at work like yells at you and tells you you fucked up or something, and you're just sitting there being like a piece of
like something, dude.
Yeah, or even a better example, like your fucking parent doesn't want you to love school.
Fuck off, guys.
But you're like, fuck that parent, you know. But that parent fucking loves you, you know. But you're like, fuck, you're like, fuck that. But they really want what's fucking best for you, you know.
Yeah.
So, like, this life is trying to show you what's best for you. And you just, like, we all know what that path is, you know, and.
So there's levels to this shit, right? There's levels to this shit.
Levels to this shit.
I think that, you know, as my pattern, you know, the elevation, so to speak, or the the progression of my thought process has gone from not understanding the differentiation in the natures that I do now to being part of the differentiation on a very larger scale, and experiencing it to the point where it actually taught me of the differentiation, right, of the spectrum, sure, okay, that are both the yin and the yang, the necessities, right? Then there comes an idea of the balance and needs be for opposition in all things, but that then instilled the idea, then what's the fucking point? I mean, every choice I'm going to make is going to be, really, is it even my choice, right? The empowering piece to me at the end of all this, and this is what's been so influential in my life, is that choice has shape, has meaning. That's our power. It has shape, it has meaning. Yes, there's a balance in all things, but what part of the balance do you wish to be a part of? That's where the life has the most meaning. Like, what part of this shit do you want to take place in? And for me, I'm called, and I believe this is true about all of us, that really the only reason that the ego exists, or the yin to the yang exists, so to speak, is to show us how much we want to be the higher self until we finally embrace it. And then we are in congruency with the universe. So that choice becomes almost inevitable at some point. It's a matter of how long you want to put it off.
And if you get so much ego built up into your life, and you die. And you get born into a new life where you're going to chance.
I can see that. I can see that.
Definitely see that.
Because you build up so much karma that you don't want to.
You just deny it completely.
You deny all the karma, and then it keeps coming towards you, and you deny it and deny it and deny it, and
you
then
just got to the point where you're not learning
it's
anymore.
Procrastination.
And then you need to go to another life because you keep denying. So that's
why
God. That's why the energies of everything.
So yes,
gets rid of your energy so that you can become a new energy because it knows that you've gone too far.
So this always makes me think. Then, if we get to a point where we are all kind of this higher self, then will death not be a necessity anymore? And will we evolve to the point where we don't die?
Like he said, there's no... When you get to that point, there's no need.
There's no need. So essentially, and this is just the theory here, because again, I can't understand it fully, but when you have no fear of anything, you can walk on water. You are now manipulating the elements beyond their definition within the mind. They are simply transformable and eradicatable and rewindable and fast forwardable. They are everything that you could ever imagine you could do with anything that you could ever imagine. So your health is irrelevant. You would live infinitely. This body would then transform into an infinite being. Energy. There would be no.
Do you think it's necessary to play the game sometimes, though?
But that's a complete 100% totality of the higher self.
Yeah.
With no
lack. Is that even possible in this existence?
It's possible.
Well,
but I don't know if it's probable. I say it's super.
Do you think it's
the idea
necessary to play the It's definitely necessary to play the
game. We believe it's possible.
And I believe
but listen 1 second. Do you think it's necessary to play the game, Because, we can put in this fucking... it's no fun to be in fucking God mode all the time.
Exactly.
It's no fucking fun. There's way too much fun with all this experience. God mode is...
What do you mean by God mode?
Whatever.
Being perfect.
Just infinite.
You telling me it wouldn't be fun to be able to do whatever you wanted to do right now?
No, what I'm saying is it's not...
Hashtag God mode.
In fact, I'm going to leave here.
It's no fun to have no struggle. It's no fun to... What I'm saying here, though...
That is God mode, though.
Okay, but what I'm saying here is it's no fun to have no struggle. If there was a fucking... If you were playing Grand Theft Auto or whatever you're fucking playing or any game, it's no fun to have
God
no
mode.
challenge.
It's no fun to be God mode.
We gotta have missions. We gotta have something to beat. There's always gonna be something. I think the only purpose of this is to find happiness in your mission. To see what you have to do in this life to fit your puzzle piece, to fucking do what you gotta do,
And you think there's not a existence of no more trials.
I think there's some sort of higher consciousness, but I think
there's
a reason we're here. I think there's consequences to everything, but we know what we want to be doing, and we know what we're progressing on. We're always learning. We're never gonna stop learning.
Do we know though in the moment what we're really doing when it comes to cause and effect, as the ripple effect goes out infinitely?
No.
Yeah, technically.
I feel it.
Really know.
When I make a fucking decision, I feel that.
Well,
I feel the intent rippling out, and I know whether or not, in that moment, if I really want to be real with myself.
Exactly.
And whether or not I should make that fucking decision.
But do you always listen to that?
But
no.
Not every
That's the fun thing too, though. I feel like
you reap what you sow. That's the cause.
And I feel like it's kind of I feel like they're okay. So if we're saying that there's this creator energy, this perfect energy, or whatever, that's constantly making things and not thinking of bad or good, it's just creating. I believe that we are part of that because we are part of the infinite energy that's never ending. But I believe, and I hate it, but I believe it. I don't believe that we're supposed to be in that God mode. I believe that we're supposed to be learning the trial and error because I think that we're just part of that energy that's infinitely going. And that energy to infinitely go, it needs to infinitely learn. And that's why it builds each of our persons so that we can go through life learning and hating and loving and feeling everything in our eyes the way that we were grown up by our parents. And our parents grew up a different way than your parents. And it's all just changing infinitely so that we can experience infinite things in infinite bodies so that the universe can, and so that the universe, which we are part of, can infinitely learn. And how can it infinitely learn if it's not breaking itself apart so that we can learn infinitely in those parts that it breaks into?
So it comes full circle here. Again, at the end of the process, is the ultimate sacrifice is the ultimate gain, right? You give to get. You know what I mean? It's just for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? Universal law,
yin and yang, whatever you want to call it.
So what we're gonna say here is it comes full circle. You're saying that it's not good to be in that God mode all the time, but the God mode essentially is without degree or dimension. So there is no God mode essentially. It's not about being in higher or lower. Only in the beginning is that the case. It's the point of evolution to the higher self. So the higher self realizes there is no higher self. There is no spirit. It's the lack of need of any definition. So just come full circle, this whole damn conversation, and come back to right here, right now, and live. And no matter what the fuck you do, although cause and effect will take place, and those things will happen because that's just what happens in this universe. It's not right or wrong what you're doing.
So could you say
it's just
that
you're doing and you're going to get what you give.
Could you say that being negative all the time is also being in God mode?
It essentially
it's all in God mode.
Essentially, it's all in God mode.
Exactly. So and that's the thing that it comes back to that I feel like is that we're all in God mode at all times. It's just we break each other into different parts so that we can experience those different God modes. Because if we only knew one God mode, then we don't know everything because we don't know every other God mode. And there's a God mode of being negative all the time. There's a God mode of being negative and positive 50%. And that every fucking spectrum in between.
But the choices do have meaning. Their meaning is in their effect.
Yeah.
It's what is sowed from what you're reaping. So the choices they do have meaning. And so I know this to be so true that I like to act out in what we perceived as the original God mode, the higher self, right? Because I see the reaping of what I sow, man. I have more money in my pocket to do what I want to do. I travel more. I'm more connected to people like this. I'm sitting here talking on the podcast for my first time. I'm going to school for sound engineering. I am super healthy. I work out 5 times a week. And I don't do any of those things because of these external components. I do them because it fucking feels incredible and I reap what I sow.
Hell yeah.
So that's why I do it.
Hell yeah.
Right? And so that's got to be true for every year.
Yeah.
I'm playing the game.
You're playing
exactly.
You found out the game.
Is it necessary sometimes to play the game?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we're playing them
all the time. So think about it this way. Yeah, think about it this way. What if you're playing Monopoly, okay?
Why would that be necessary?
So you're playing Monopoly, you go around the board constantly, okay? And you're constantly buying and selling things. You're constantly buying and selling things with other people. You're constantly buying and selling things. So what if when you're first born, in your first energy, before you get reincarnated or anything, say that you are the piece on the board of Monopoly. So you are being played by the person that is your piece. And until you go around enough times to experience that you have more control than just your piece, that you are part of the hand that is controlling you, then you can control the hand that is controlling you so that you can land on certain pieces and buy certain pieces because you want to. You are no longer the piece. You are no longer the piece. You are now the controller and the piece at the same time.
Exactly. Exactly.
I feel like that's how we should end it. Honestly.
There it is.
And that's a great one. And
Play the game.
I love you guys. Play the
Much love.
fucking game.
Have fun.
Play
Have fun.
Real
That's what
life-
it is,
yeah,
man. It is a
have-
game out there. Have fun.
Have fun.
Keep learning.
Real quick,
Have fun.
I want to share my religious beliefs real quick. I just
Let's
make
hear
sure
it.
before every big battle I pray at the Shrine of Talos. Have a good night, y'all.
Talos.
What is that?
God,
Hey,
Hey, shout out Brian Woodward. I love you, buddy. Hope to do this with you soon, man.
Okay.
Too dope to cope. Too much
Alright.
sauce.
Peace out. Much love.
Hey.
This was a fucking amazing one.
It was
Learned
amazing.
a lot.
Thanks for sticking through to the end.
Thank you.